We appreciate you being in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And boy, you were smart to join us because we're talking football with Solomon Wilcots, football IQ extraordinaire. We're going to basically have him put his professor cap on as a former safety in the National Football League that was on a Super Bowl team, Super Bowl 23 team with the Cincinnati Bengals, to talk about cover two, the nuances of cover two, how there's not just cover two, there's multiple little tweaks and twists that can take place in cover two. And what the quarterback sees pre-snap might not be what he's going to be dealing with post-snap and all those kind of things. Professor Wilcots, take it away. Welcome once again to In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. As always, in the studios of the magnificent First Star Logistics, and we got a magnificent guest right here, the one and only, the icon, Solomon Wilcots. Solly, appreciate your time, my man.
Oh, Dave, hey, look, as much as you do for us, and not just me, but a lot of other people, greatly appreciate it and happy to be on with you.
All right, Solly, so educate us. Educate our audience. You were a hell of a safety, played in the National Football League for a good number of years, played on a Super Bowl team. You know what you're looking at. You're a great broadcaster. You can communicate it. So cover two. Everybody's talking about, oh, man, everybody's playing cover two against this Cincinnati Bengal defense. Explain to us what cover two is in the eyes of a former stud safety in the National Football League.
Well, cover two is, you might hear quarterbacks say, two high safeties, right? That's another way of telling you have cover two. That means two safeties deep, typically over the middle of the field. That means both corners are rolled up on the perimeter. Sometimes it'll look like two, and it might morph into something else because you can line up in that cover two shell and actually play two-man, right? You can play man underneath, but typically your cover two is two deep safety and zone underneath between the linebackers and the two cornerbacks rolled up.
So, like you said, there's nuances. I mean, it's not just cover two and there's just one cover two. Everybody's got wrinkles, twists, nuances, and looks like, okay, pre-snap, two safeties deep. After the snap of the football, one might roll down. You're gonna get all kinds of different things. But if a team is lining up in cover two on a steady diet in some way, shape, or form, and the old school in me, I mean, like Bill Tiger Johnson would say, man, we got to run them out of it. Run them out of it. We got to run the football. Let's run them out of that. They're not, the box is light. Let's run them out of it. Is that one of the best ways to handle cover two?
Yeah, especially if you're cover two, and the Bengals typically run what we call 11 personnel, right? That's one running back, one tight end. So that means 1 and 1, that's 11 personnel, which means you have 3 wide receivers. So that means you're going to have someone displaced from the formation, like your slot receiver and a Tyler Boyd.
Right.
So that means you have to walk out a linebacker. When you walk that linebacker out, that means you've got 6 in the box. And if you do the math, when you have 5 linemen plus your tight end, right, as a blocker, that means you've got 6 blocking their 6.
Yep.
It's simple math. You always want to run on that because guess who the 7th guy is? It's the runner. In this case, Joe Mixon. Their 7th guy is nowhere in the box because you have the 2 cornerbacks outside and you have the 2 safeties deep and you have a linebacker that's displaced and you've got their 4 down linemen and one linebacker as well. So at the end of the day, you should really have the advantage. You should be able to run against it. And for whatever reason, when the Bengals are attempting to slam Joe Mixon up in there, teams, at least for right now, have done a really good job. I think at least in the second week, the Cowboys did a good job of not allowing big run plays to happen with Joe Mixon. So, yeah, you've got to be better 6 on 6. You got to be better at manufacturing rush yards so that they bring that safety down and they come out of that cover 2 shell, which should open things up in the passing game.
Right. It's like like you mentioned, Solly, Joe Mixon's longest run from scrimmage against the Cowboys was 10 yards. Joe Burrow had a 12-yard scramble, up the middle. And it was proven when Joe split the tackles in the pass rush or whatever, they, got their lanes a little bit out of whack and he was able to scramble. There's nobody in the middle of the field. I mean, he got 12 yards before, he was even challenged. So the middle of the field, if you can run it and get the linebackers to step toward the line of scrimmage, now you can play action fake, space between linebackers and safeties. Theoretically, there's space in there for tight ends, wideouts. Everybody can utilize that, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And the real key is that with a cover 2 look, it starts off looking like cover 2. It fools a lot of quarterbacks, even some of the veteran quarterbacks. Okay, I've seen the great ones. In fact, we just saw a cover 2 look result in a pick 6 for Mike Edwards, the defensive back, the safety for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against Jameis Winston on Sunday. That's what happens is you rotate down. It starts off looking like 2 high safety, but they'll try to take away that over the middle throw. They'll try to take away that curl route. They'll buzz the safety into the hook. And so it looks like there's 2 deep. But if that safety never moves and the other one starts to go to center field, it's hard for that quarterback to see, is that safety getting depth or is he just sitting in the hole? And if you're not looking at him the entire time, you won't know. So if you're looking elsewhere, they're trying to come back, thinking you've got the cover 2 look you wanted. I'm going to come and look off and then come back to that buzz hook.
Yeah.
That's what happened on the very first play of the Cincinnati Bengals season where Minkah Fitzpatrick looked like he was in a cover 2. He buzzed to the hook. Joe went late over there and didn't see Minkah. Picked it off, turns into a pick 6 for Minkah Fitzpatrick. And now I think Joe is kind of looking. He's hesitant. He's not sure what he's seeing down the field when they start off in a 2 high zone and it starts to move around on you. I'm a coach. Say I'm coaching in the secondary. I'm always going to start either in a quarters look and move into something different. Or I'm going to start from a cover 2 look, a 2 high safety look, and then I'm going to rotate into something different. Okay. You cannot allow quarterbacks to read your mail pre-snap. In other words, whatever you're lining up in is showing the quarterback, you eventually got to move into something else after the snap of the ball. And that's another thing that's happening to the Cincinnati Bengals. That's what teams are doing to Joe Mixon. Look, it fools the best of them. I seen it fool Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers. You saw on Sunday last week, you saw Matt Ryan threw 3 interceptions. These are guys who've been in the league 14, 15 years.
Right.
And Joe's now in his 3rd year. Really he hadn't even played in 30 games yet. So there's a learning curve here, and you just have to continue to evolve.
Joe Burrow is a human being, threw 4 interceptions in the first game. Do you think there was a little, like you mentioned, hesitancy? Was there a little conservatism? I don't want to throw this into any kind of a tight spot. And then the rush started being a factor and his clock gets sped up. And now all of a sudden, I'm not sure. Oh, here they come, and the whole thing becomes a very, very tough situation. Do you think there's anything to that?
No, I think it's the elephant in the room. I listen. One thing about Joe Burrow, he will take a sack before he'll throw an interception.
Right.
He is a tough guy. He'll take one before he gives up the ball because he knows that giving up the ball is hard. You can't come back from that. Taking a sack, you can come back from that. This guy is courageous, almost to a fault, right? Mm-hmm. But I'd rather that guy, because I think we found out in the playoff game, you could take 9 sacks and win, but you can't come back from three or 4 interceptions, right? That's what Tannehill did in the game. So what's transpired here? I think we've kind of find ourselves 0-2 and in the midst of the perfect storm against our young quarterback and against where the football team currently sits.
Right.
But there is a way out. And you got to understand how we got here. How we got here is this. Other teams are going to study what you do, and they're going to try to get better at defending you, particularly when teams play you early in the season, especially if it's a divisional opponent. They're going to spend all offseason studying you, and they're going to make you play left-handed, doing the things you don't like to do. And that is, let's make you give him pre-snap look and then come back with something else. He was sacked on the very first play of the season. That can rewire your sense of timing, your sense of safety and comfort in the pocket. And because the quarterback position is the most anticipatory position in the league, you can't wait to see it before you throw it. You got to anticipate it when you throw it.
Yep.
Now, let me just tell you right now, most of us had to live our lives and do our jobs based on guessing, on high levels of probability, doing the math, our homework and all our weekly study, and then say, here's what they're doing, here's what they're doing. I got to guess, and I got to be early to be on time. You're going to make some mistakes. That's what playing quarterback in the NFL was like. You've got to anticipate and then cut it loose with great confidence in order for it to work out. In order to get a completion in this league, that's what you have to do. You can't wait for the receiver to get open and then say, okay, I'm going to throw it. By then, you and I both know it's too late. So he's been hit. That's rewired his clock. He's been picked off on a pick six, his second pass of the season. I think that's created some hesitancy. Teams are doing things that maybe giving him some different looks. I think that heightens the hesitancy.
Yep.
I think the appendectomy and the time away has also, the game has sped up, and I think he's a little bit behind it. So that's what I mean by the perfect storm.
Yeah.
It's not one factor. There are multiple factors, and the Bengals have to find a way to hit a reset button with him to help, first of all, build up his confidence and his safety in the pocket, while at the same time creating easy reads when he's throwing the football and some easy completions, right? And help this offense to be able to generate positive plays without putting him in jeopardy.
So the numbers, Solly, last year, 2021 to now, to currently, counting the playoffs, Joe Burrow has been sacked 83 times. The next highest sacked quarterback in the NFL, there's two that have been sacked 49 times.
Yeah.
That's Baker Mayfield and Derek Carr.
Yeah.
83 to 49 is a
almost
big
twice as much. Almost twice as much, right?
A big discrepancy, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be a little bit alarming. And like you say, Joe's a tough guy. He's as physically tough as any quarterback I've ever seen. He gets up and dusts himself off, and no big deal. But
but he's seeing it now, Dave.
You're right.
He's seeing the pass rush.
Yep.
He's not seeing the field clearly right now, right? This is a problem because this is what I was always really concerned about, because it can happen to any quarterback. I don't care if the greatest to ever play. Jim Plunkett, when he came out of Stanford, was one of the greatest our game had seen up until that time. This was a guy taking one pick ahead of Archie Manning.
Yeah.
Right? Now, Jim ultimately lived up to his promise by winning 2 Super Bowls with his later team out on the West Coast playing for the Raiders. But when he came in with the Patriots, they got him beat up so bad, he became a reclamation project that took time to come out of that shell shock mentality. Same happened with Steve Young in his early days at Tampa. It took time sitting behind Joe Montana in San Francisco for him to come out of that. They don't all come out of it. You named how many times he's been sacked, 13 times even already this year in 2 games. That's an average of 6.5 sacks per game, and then on pace for 110 sacks. You know why no one's ever been sacked that much in a regular season? Because they don't survive.
Yeah.
You don't make it to 100. Something usually worse happens, a season-ending injury. This cannot continue. We're headed on that's a pattern for disaster.
Right.
And it needs to be fixed, and it needs to be fixed quickly. Look, I think one way, and listen, I don't think we're saying anything that the Bengals, because I have great respect for Zach Taylor. I have great respect for him. Guarantee you they're having those conversations right now as we speak.
Absolutely.
They're meeting on the same issue. And I believe they've got to come out of shotgun. You got to get the quarterback back under center. Now, what does that mean, Dave? Okay. Right now, 169 offensive snaps through 2 games. 123 of those snaps have been in shotgun. Roughly 73% of their snaps have occurred in shotgun from spread formation. You can't run out of it.
Yep.
Can't protect the quarterback out of it. There's no subterfuge. There's no mystery for the defense. They get to pin their ears back and come after the quarterback. I tell people this all the time. There's something that every single defensive player has to do on every single play before they can carry out their assignment. You know what that is? They got to decide, is it a run or is it a pass? They don't even get to carry out their assignment until they know at least that.
Yep.
And so they come out of the huddle saying, well, if it's a run, I'm doing this. If it's a pass, I'm doing this. They have 2 assignments on at least every play. And they've got to decide if it's a run or if it was a pass. This offense is very similar to the 49ers, the Rams, the Minnesota Vikings, even what we did under Boomer. Boomer was one of the best coming out from under center, playing ball fake, playing games with the defense. Did he give the ball to Ickey Woods or James Brooks, or did he keep it himself? His ball handling was meticulously wonderful.
Right.
Peyton Manning carried out his ball fakes. Why was he doing that? Because he knows that defensive end may have to hold one bit, and now Anthony Munoz gets to lock in and get his hands on him, right? Because if it's play action, it buys a little more time for our offensive lineman to engage. It buys a little bit more time for that defensive back who's peeking in the backfield. And now Eddie Brown slipping past him in the play action, going deep. It creates this moment of uncertainty and hesitancy for the defense on every single play. And so that's what, when I say get back under center, it does that. But if you're running the ball, now we can go counter trades. We can do a lot of the power run stuff that you can never do from shotgun, right? You can't, man,
right.
Look, it takes us back to the basics. But isn't that what we need to do for Joe Burrow? We need to first, because it's about his safety right now.
Right, right.
And I think that's just, look, I'm not reinventing the game. I'm not pretending to be smarter than any of our coaches. But I do know a little bit about ball. I know what the data says. And the numbers suggest that we're heavy, far heavier through the first 2 games this year than we were last year, when we were right about 55 snaps in the first 2 games out of shotgun. This year, we're 123. That means we're trying to pick up where we left off last year at the end of the year in the Super Bowl. But now we got to go back to the beginning. We got to go back to the basics. And I think for that perfect storm, all those items that I talked about, it is for all of those reasons, we need to go back to square one because of a lot of the things that we're trying to do. We're exposing our quarterback and making everyone else's job a little bit harder.
As a former lineman, I just concur with what you're talking about, because if you can come up to the line of scrimmage, quarterback under center, and come off the football and try to, establish yourself a little bit, and then the quarterback, same look, puts it in the running back's belly and takes it out, they're not teeing off on you. Right. It's a total, I'm talking about night and day difference, man. I mean, these guys are so athletic and so good. When they're just taking an edge on you and just sprinting and teeing off, whew, I mean, that's tough. You're retreating, you're giving ground grudgingly, hopefully, and they are attacking you. You're going backwards, they're going forward, attacking you. Man, that's tough hand-to-hand combat, and any way you can help, eliminate some of those issues for the offensive line as well, it'll have a huge trickle-down effect. There's no doubt about it. So, Solly, let me get you out of here on this. If you had to pick 2 things that the Bengals need to do differently to turn it around against the Jets, what might those 2 things be? Let's hit one offensively and one defensively.
One, I think, get back under center.
Yep.
And get the power run game going with Mixon.
Yep.
That way, right now, Joe is getting, and not only is Burrow getting hit in the backfield, Joe Mixon's getting hit in the backfield. He's having to avoid people on his side of the line of scrimmage,
Exactly.
which makes his job that much harder.
Here's one, Charlie. They get penalized. The Dallas Cowboys get penalized. 12 men on the field, 1st and 5. Oh man, give the ball to Joe Mixon. -2 yards. Now it's 2nd and 7.
I know. I remember that
place to call. For Joe Mixon to
get going. Yeah,
you're right. I mean, too many no gains or minus yards, no doubt.
That's right, and that's not on him. He's making people miss in the back. This is as good as I've seen Joe Mixon run. To be honest with you, his footwork is phenomenal. His quickness is still operating at a high level.
Yep.
I think he's chomping at the bit to have the kind of season that we all expect of him. But we got to get him at least back to the line of scrimmage, if not to the second level, before he encounters his first defender. So that's how I gauge where the running back comes in and where the offensive line is. Where the defense, I think we got to start coming up with some turnovers. Well, we've got one so far all season. We've had opportunities, right, where defensive backs are getting their hands on the ball but not closing the deal. We're getting close on pressures where we're getting around the quarterback but not getting them on the ground, right? That, to me, this defense is that I'm not changing a whole lot defensively.
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing these guys, they're this close. And that's all about effort, energy. And if they keep bringing it, they're going to get home. They were this close to so many plays being made on Cooper Rush in the backfield. The same with Mitchell Trubisky. And I thought with all the turnovers, what we call sudden change situations, I thought the defense played phenomenally week 1 against Pittsburgh.
Absolutely.
And I thought they played good against Dallas. Could have been maybe a little bit better on the first drive in the game and the last drive in the game.
Yeah.
But other than that, they were really good. But they're this close. So we just got to get home. And, in this league, as much as teams are throwing it, defensive backs, when you drop an interception, it's equivalent to a wide receiver dropping a touchdown. It's akin to a wide receiver being wide open, quarterback hits him, and now you're like dropping the ball and you're wide open. That's because you're allowing the offense to get a second chance at you, and you're giving up what could have been a big play. So catching the ball it's at a premium on the defensive side of the ball. I don't care who you are, all 11, but certainly the defensive backs. Anything you can do to make yourself better in that area is going to go a long way to helping to win games.
Solly, as usual, you're the best. Love talking football with Solomon Wilcots. Could do it for hours, no doubt.
I love talking ball with you. Hey, I'm pulling for this team. I think we're going to pull through, man, but we got to get that nose pointing upward. Right now, the plane's kind of doing this, and we got to get that. We got to turn it up. And you and I both know it can happen on any given play.
Yep.
Bengals were in each and every one of these games. Now we really do have to find a way to win them. And we're going to have to start taking some games from people that we maybe weren't expected to, since we gave a couple away that we were expected to win.
Absolutely. Now they got to win 2 games for every loss. Now there's 15 games left. They got to go 10-5 to match last year. And I think, to get in the playoffs, you got to win double digits. You got to get 10 wins.
No doubt.
We got work to do, Solly. You're right, but it's achievable, no question.
That's right. Dave, thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Solly. You're the man.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.